A man is most invisible when he stops needing permission to exist. Think about that. When a man no longer seeks validation, when he doesn't ask the world, "Am I good enough?" he becomes something powerful. He's not trying to be seen, he just is. He walks into a room and doesn't need applause. He lives with purpose, not for performance. And that kind of man, he's not loud, but he's felt. That's where the journey begins. When you realize the loudest approval you'll ever need is your own. But here's the problem. Most men never make it to that place. Not because they're weak, not because they're unworthy, but because they get stuck right in the middle. They become wanderers, drifters in the desert of their own desperation, chasing things, status, attention, relationships that look like meaning but are just mirages. Temporary highs that fade as fast as they come. They think if they just get the right job, the right girl, the right lifestyle, they'll finally feel whole. But every time they get close, it slips through their fingers. Why? Because they're looking for completion in something outside themselves. But you can't outsource your peace. Let me say that again. You can't outsource your peace. And that brings us to the truth most people never say out loud. The highest human experience isn't passion. It's peace. And peace is impossible when your emotional world is controlled by someone else's mood swings. If your sense of identity depends on whether she texts you back, if your confidence disappears the second you get rejected, if your entire mood shifts based on who likes your post, then you're not in control. You're a puppet, pulled by strings you handed to someone else. But it doesn't have to be that way. There's a different path. A quieter one. It's not flashy, it's not trendy, but it's real, and it starts with solitude. Now, let me be clear. Solitude isn't loneliness. It's not isolation. It's not about cutting people off or going full monk mode. It's about learning to be with yourself, really with yourself, without distractions, without noise, without the need to constantly prove or perform. But here's the thing most men don't realize until it's too late. You're not lonely. You're just unfamiliar with yourself. You feel empty because you're alone. You feel empty because you've never actually met you. The real you. Not the version shaped by your job title, your relationship status, or your follower count. The real, raw, unfiltered, unvarnished you. And singleness? It's not a curse. It's not a waiting room for your real life to begin. It's sacred. It's the one space in life where you can finally sit with yourself, undistracted, unentangled, and figure out who you actually are. Because here's a secret no one tells you. Singleness isn't a delay in destiny. It's the doorway to it. It's where the real work happens, where the real transformation takes place, where you stop pretending and start becoming. But society doesn't teach us that. It teaches us to fear being alone, to always be searching for someone to complete us. But no one completes you. That's a myth. You are not a half, you're a whole. And until you live like it, every relationship you enter will feel like a rescue mission or a performance, not a partnership. Now, don't get me wrong. There's beauty in connection. There's power in love. But those things are only healthy when they flow from wholeness, not neediness. The man who thrives in singleness doesn't isolate, he refines. He doesn't run from connection, he elevates it. He takes time alone, not to escape people, but to better serve them. He's not hiding, he's sharpening. This is the kind of man who walks into a room and brings calm instead of chaos. He doesn't need to be the center of attention because his peace isn't performative, it's anchored. This kind of man isn't swayed by every wave of emotion, every opinion, every rejection. He's steady, grounded, because he's done the work in silence, in solitude, in the places no one claps for. And here's the kicker. The more peace you build within, the less control the world has over you. You stop chasing things that used to enslave you. You stop begging people to stay. You stop proving your worth to people who never saw it to begin with. Because when you know who you are, you stop auditioning for the role of enough. Now this path, it's not easy. There are no shortcuts, no hacks, just you, your thoughts, and the decision to show up for yourself, day after day. But here's what's waiting on the other side: clarity, power, presence, a sense of self that can't be shaken. And once you find that, once you taste that, you'll never go back to begging the world to see you, because now finally you see you. No one tells you when you're young. Most of life isn't about addition, it's about subtraction. You don't become a man by stacking on more women, more money, more status. You become a man by learning what to let go of: your need for approval, your fear of judgment, your addiction to attention. And that's why solitude isn't punishment, it's purification. It strips away the noise. It removes the roles you play for others. It forces you to face the version of yourself that no one claps for, the one behind the eyes when no one's looking. And yes, it's uncomfortable, because we've been trained to fear our own stillness. We've been taught to believe that silence means something's wrong, that if we're not constantly doing, we're somehow failing. But the truth? The man who can sit in silence without going insane is unshakable, because that man isn't trying to escape anything. He's made peace with the chaos inside him. He's learned to hold his own hand before reaching for someone else's. This is where discipline comes in, not as punishment, but as devotion. Discipline is how you build a life that feels good when no one's watching. It's how you earn your own respect. It's how you make your actions louder than your words. And a disciplined man? He's magnetic. Not because he's flashy or aggressive, but because he's stable in a world that's always spinning. He's become a lighthouse, not a boat. So what does this look like in real life? It looks like waking up early, not because someone told you to, but because you chose structure over chaos. It looks like honoring your word, even when no one will notice if you flake. It looks like working on your craft in silence, day after day, while everyone else seeks applause for their grind. It looks like building a relationship with yourself that's so strong, no breakup can break you. This is how the masculine grows: through stillness, through structure, through self-respect. Because masculinity isn't noise. It's not aggression. It's not control. It's presence. The kind of presence that doesn't beg to be seen, but can't be ignored. That's the power of a man who's learned to be alone. He's not in exile. He's in training. He's not isolating. He's integrating. He's not avoiding women. He's preparing to meet them as an equal, not a dependent. And here's the beautiful paradox. The man who no longer needs a relationship to feel whole is the one most ready for love. Because he's not asking someone else to carry the weight of his identity. He's not turning romance into therapy. He's not looking for a mother and a partner or a savior and a soulmate. He's coming into the relationship full, not empty, overflowing, not thirsty. And this changes everything. Because when two whole people meet, love becomes an expansion, not an escape. A gift, not a gamble. A mirror, not a mask. But you can't get there without doing the inner work. You can't shortcut your way to depth. You have to earn it. And that means walking alone sometimes. It means facing your shadows. It means outgrowing environments where you were once the loudest voice, only to become the quietest student in a room full of better men. And yes, it's humbling. But humility is the birthplace of strength. Because here's the truth. The strongest men are often the softest inside. Not weak. Soft, open, real, capable of empathy without drowning in it, capable of leadership without ego. They've suffered and survived. They've lost and learned. They've failed and forgiven themselves. And most importantly, they've stopped performing. They no longer wear masks to be liked. They no longer shrink to be accepted. They no longer hustle for worthiness. They've realized, I am enough as I am without applause. And that kind of man, he's dangerous to a shallow world. He's threatening to broken systems. He's liberating to others still trapped in performance. Because his existence proves it's possible to live differently, to live deeply. And once you've tasted that kind of depth, surface level living will never satisfy you again. You'll start craving conversations with weight, relationships with intention, solitude with meaning, success that's internal before it's external. Because you'll realize the goal was never attention, it was always alignment. Alignment with your values, alignment with your vision, alignment with your soul. And guess what? When you live in alignment, everything starts to shift. People feel it. Opportunities find you, not because you chase them, but because you became the kind of man who attracts them. And this is why you must stop waiting. Stop waiting to be chosen. Stop waiting to be seen. Stop waiting for someone to tell you you're worthy. Choose yourself first. See yourself fully. Know your worth deeply, so deeply that no external rejection can take it from you. Because once you're rooted in your own value, you stop negotiating your dignity. You stop explaining your boundaries. You stop over-giving for crumbs of attention. And you start living like a man who remembers who he is. Here's what you need to understand. A man grounded in peace is untouchable. Not because nothing affects him, but because everything passes through him instead of controlling him. He feels deeply, but he's not led by impulse. He's aware of his desires, but he's not enslaved by them. He knows how to hold space for emotion without being consumed by it. That's what emotional maturity looks like. And emotional maturity is one of the rarest forms of power in a world obsessed with appearances. Because let's face it, most people are just reacting to rejection, reacting to boredom, reacting to silence, to fear, to loneliness. But the man who has built peace within himself doesn't react, he responds. He moves with intention. He pauses when others panic. He listens when others shout. And this doesn't make him passive. It makes him potent. He doesn't throw energy in every direction. He channels it. He knows the power of restraint, the value of patience, the weight of a word spoken at the right time. He has nothing to prove, so everything he does has weight. This is the essence of presence, not performance, not trying to dominate a room with noise, but owning the room with silence. Calm, certainty. And it's this kind of presence that makes people listen. Not because you're shouting, but because you don't have to. But how do you get there? You have to go through the fire. Not the fire of hustle culture, not the fire of toxic masculinity, but the fire of self-confrontation. You have to ask the hard questions. Why do I fear stillness? Why do I chase relationships I know aren't right? Why do I feel like I have to earn love by overperforming? And you have to sit with the answers, without flinching, without numbing out, without running back to distractions. Because healing begins where pretending ends. And the longer you avoid your inner world, the more you'll sabotage your outer one. But once you face it, once you own it, you unlock a level of self-trust that nothing can shake. You stop betraying yourself to please others. You stop shrinking for people who are intimidated by your wholeness. You stop explaining your growth to people committed to staying the same. And that's when you begin to attract differently. Because when you've done the work, you no longer need chaotic connections to feel alive. You no longer need drama to feel passion. You no longer confuse intensity with intimacy. You know what you're building, and you won't compromise it for short-term attention. This is the kind of man who builds legacy, not just lifestyle, who leaves an impact, not just impressions. And here's the paradox. The more detached you become from external validation, the more magnetic you become. Why? Because people can feel the difference between someone who wants to be chosen and someone who's already chosen himself. One is needy, the other is rooted. One performs, the other embodies. One drains the room, the other grounds it. And it's not about perfection. You're not meant to become some stoic machine without emotions. You're still human. You'll still feel pain. You'll still have doubts. But those things no longer control your direction. You acknowledge them. You process them, and you move forward, aligned, aware, and anchored. That's real masculinity, not domination, but integration. It's when your strength and your softness coexist, when your ambition doesn't drown your peace, when your clarity is louder than your ego. So let's bring this full circle. A man is most invisible when he is no longer seeking permission to exist. He's not invisible because he lacks value. He's invisible because he doesn't need to be seen to feel significant. His validation comes from within. His identity is no longer outsourced. And in that state, he becomes ungovernable, not rebellious, not reckless, but sovereign. And sovereignty is the ultimate goal of the masculine path. Not independence from connection, but independence within connection. So that whether you're alone or in a relationship, whether you're winning or losing, whether you're seen or overlooked, you remain you, whole, grounded, clear. And the journey there, it starts in silence. It grows in solitude. It matures through self-respect. It's a lonely path at first, but over time, it becomes the most fulfilling walk of your life. Because in the end, every man must face this truth. You can build a life of performance or a life of presence. One gets applause, the other gets peace. Choose wisely.